The signal came on a cold morning in December 2047. It arrived at the Atacama Radio Observatory in Chile, where a young technician named Jisoo Han was drinking her third cup of coffee. She almost missed it. The pattern looked like noise at first, random static from deep space. But then she noticed something strange. The noise repeated. Every 47 seconds. The exact same pattern. Jisoo called her supervisor. Her supervisor called the director. The director called the president. Within 6 hours, every major government on Earth knew the truth. Humanity was not alone. The signal came from a star system 200 light-years away. Scientists worked day and night to decode it. The message was not complicated. It was an invitation. "We are the Galactic Concord," the message said. "We are an alliance of 4,000 civilizations across the stars. We detected your radio signals decades ago. We know you exist. Respond to this frequency, and we will welcome you as members of our great family." The world went crazy. Some people celebrated in the streets. Others hid in their homes, afraid of what this meant. Religious leaders gave speeches. Politicians made promises. Scientists argued about what to do next. Everyone had an opinion. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every country gathered to discuss humanity's response. Most of them wanted to answer immediately. "This was the greatest moment in human history," they said. "We must not miss this chance." But one man disagreed. Admiral Do-hyun Park was 62 years old. He had spent his entire life studying military strategy and human history. He was not a dreamer. He was a thinker. And something about the message made him uncomfortable. "The signal contains hidden data," Do-hyun told the assembly. "Our scientists found it buried in the transmission. It is a map showing the locations of every species that has responded to this invitation in the past 1,000 years. The room went quiet. "We found 247 civilizations on that map," Do-hyun continued. "We tracked their signals in our archives. Do you know what we discovered? Every single one of them went silent within 300 years of joining the Concorde. Every one. Their radio signals, their spacecraft, their presence in the galaxy. Gone. Gone. Gone." Someone in the crowd shouted that this proved nothing. Maybe they evolved beyond radio. Maybe they moved to other dimensions. Maybe they simply stopped broadcasting. Do-hyun shook his head. Or maybe they were destroyed. The argument lasted for months. Scientists analyzed the data again and again. Some said Do-hyun was paranoid. Others said he might be right. The world could not agree. Finally, the UN Security Council held a secret vote. The result was close. 7-6. Humanity would not respond. Do-hyun stood before the cameras and announced the decision to the world. "We have chosen silence," he said. "Not because we are afraid, but because we are careful. We do not know what waits for us in the stars. Until we do, we will watch. We will listen. We will prepare." The reaction was mixed. Some people called Do-hyun a coward. Others called him a hero. Protests erupted in major cities. Governments fell and rose. But the decision held. Earth went dark. All outbound radio signals were stopped. Television broadcasts were shielded. Radar systems were modified to prevent leakage into space. Humanity became invisible. The years passed. 2050. 2060. 2080. The Concorde sent more messages. They grew more insistent. "We know you received our signal. Why do you not respond? Do you not wish to join us? Do you not wish to learn the secrets of the universe?" Earth said nothing. Do-hyun Park died in 2089, at the age of 104. He spent his final years training a new generation of leaders who understood the importance of silence. His students spread across the world, into governments and militaries and scientific institutions. They carried his vision forward, By 2100, humanity had changed. The threat of the Concorde united the world in ways that nothing else could. Wars became rare. Resources were shared. Technology advanced faster than ever before. Humans built their first permanent base on Mars, then on the moons of Jupiter, then in the asteroid belt, all of it hidden, all of it silent. Scientists studied the Concorde's transmissions carefully. They learned their languages. They mapped their territories. They reverse-engineered their technology from the data hidden in their signals. Humanity grew stronger with each passing decade. In 2147, exactly 100 years after the first signal, the Concorde sent a final message. We have not received your response. We assume your civilization has collapsed. Your species has been marked as extinct. We will not contact you again. The people of Earth read that message and smiled. They were not extinct. They were waiting, deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a bunker that did not exist on any map. A young woman named Yuna Choi read the Concorde's message on her screen. She was 25 years old, a genius in linguistics and artificial intelligence. She had been chosen to lead the next phase of humanity's plan. Yuna looked at the message for a long time. Then she turned to her team. They think we are dead, she said. Good. Let them think that. We have 150 more years of work to do. She pulled up a holographic display of the galaxy. Thousands of stars glowed in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Concorde waited, confident in their power, certain that no one could challenge them. They were wrong. Humanity had learned the most important lesson of survival. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is stay quiet. Sometimes, patience is the greatest weapon of all. Earth stayed silent. But Earth was not sleeping. Earth was preparing for the day when silence would end, and the galaxy would learn what humanity had become. That day was coming, and when it arrived, everything would change. 250 years had passed since the first signal. The year was 2297, and humanity had become something new. Dr. Yuna Choi was now the oldest living human. At 175 years old, she had seen the entire transformation of her species. Life extension technology, developed in secret during the long silence, had changed everything. Humans could live for centuries now. They could remember. They could plan. Yuna stood in the command center of Station Whisper, a massive facility hidden in the shadow of a rogue planet between star systems. No sunlight reached this place. No Concorde patrol had ever come close. It was the perfect hiding spot. "Show me the map," Yuna said. The holographic display activated. The galaxy spread out before her. A spiral of 400 billion stars. Red dots marked Concorde territory. They controlled almost everything, but scattered across the edges, in the dark spaces between stars, tiny blue dots glowed. Human colonies. There were 12 of them now. 80 billion people, living on hidden worlds, in asteroid stations, on moons that the Concorde considered worthless. They had built cities underground and in the clouds of gas giants. They had created farms that needed no sunlight and factories that produced no detectable signals. Humanity had grown in the shadows, and no one in the galaxy knew. Lieutenant Sunho Kim walked up beside Yuna. He was young, only 43, but he was one of the smartest military minds humanity had produced. He studied the map with careful eyes. "The Concorde is expanding again," Sunho said. "They absorbed 2 more species last month, the Kirathi and the Moline. Both of them responded to the invitation signal. Both of them are already showing signs of decline." Yuna nodded slowly. She had seen this pattern many times. The Concorde would contact a new species. They would offer technology and protection. The new species would join happily, and then, within a few generations, they would begin to fade. Their population would drop. Their creativity would disappear. Their identity would be absorbed into the Concorde's gray sameness. It was not conquest. It was something worse. It was slow. Digestion. Have you found them yet? Yuna asked. Sunho smiled. He adjusted the map. New dots appeared. Green ones this time, scattered in the darkness far from Concord space. These were not human colonies. These were something else. The Valori, Sunho said, pointing to one dot. Insectoid species. They received the Concord's invitation 600 years ago. They never responded. They have been hiding, ever since. He pointed to another dot. The Dranathi, aquatic beings, silent for 400 years. And another. The Sulkai, energy-based life forms. They have been running from the Concord for nearly a millennium. Yuna felt her heart beat faster. This was what she had been searching for. For 2 centuries, humanity had been alone in their silence. But they had always hoped that others had made the same choice. Others who had seen through the Concord's lies. Others who had chosen to hide rather than be consumed. Now they had proof. How many in total? Yuna asked. 17 confirmed species, Sunho replied. All silent. All hiding. All afraid. Yuna turned away from the map. She walked to the observation window and looked out at the darkness. The rogue planet below them was just a shadow against the stars. Cold and lifeless. But somehow, beautiful. We should contact them, she said. Sunho stiffened. Director. That is extremely dangerous. Any signal we send could be intercepted. If the Concord discovers us now, everything we have built will be destroyed. I know the risks. Then why take them? We are safe here. We can continue to grow in secret. In another 100 years, we might be strong enough to challenge the Concord directly. Yuna shook her head. We will never be strong enough alone. The Concord has 4,000 species under their control. Even if half of them are weakened and dying, they still have more ships, more resources, more people than we can imagine. We cannot defeat them with strength. Then how? Yuna turned to face him. Her eyes, still bright after 175 years of life, held a fire that Sunho had never seen before. We defeat them with truth, she said. We defeat them with unity. We find every species that has chosen silence, and we bring them together. We build an alliance of the hidden. We share our knowledge, our technology, our hope. And when we are ready, we do not attack the Concord. We expose them. Sunho frowned. Expose them? The Concord's power comes from lies. They tell new species that joining is wonderful. They hide the fate of those who were absorbed. But what if everyone knew the truth? What if we could show the galaxy what the Concord really does? Sunho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the map again, at the red dots, spreading across the galaxy like a disease. Then he looked at the green dots, tiny and scattered, barely visible in the darkness. It is a big risk, he said finally. Yes, we could lose everything. Yes, but if it works, Yuna smiled. If it works, we change everything. She walked back to the main console and began typing commands. Prepare a stealth probe. We will send a message to the Valori first. No transmission signals. Physical delivery only. We will include everything. Our history, our technology, our locations. Complete transparency. Sunho looked shocked. You want to give them everything? What if they betray us? Then we die, Yuna said simply. But we will not win this war by being afraid. The Concord rules through fear and secrecy. We must be different. We must offer trust. She finished the commands and turned to face her team. Dozens of officers watched her, waiting for orders. For 250 years, we have been silent, Yuna said. We have watched. We have learned. We have prepared. But now, the time has come to take the next step. We will reach out to others like us. We will build something new. Not an empire. Not a Concord. An alliance. A family of the free. She paused and looked at each face in the room. This will be dangerous. Some of you may die. Some of us may be captured. The Concord may find us and destroy everything we have built. But I believe that is a risk worth taking, because the alternative is to hide forever, and that is no way to live. No one spoke, but one by one, they nodded. Yuna Choi smiled. After 175 years of waiting, the real work was finally beginning. The silence was about to end. Captain Hiren Lee had traveled farther from Earth than any human before her. Her ship, the HSS Silence, was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. It could cross 100 light-years in a single day and leave no trace that could be detected. It was designed for one purpose: making contact with those who hid in the dark. Now Hiren floated in the observation deck, watching a strange world grow larger through the window. The planet was covered in thick purple forests. Giant insects the size of mountains moved slowly across its surface. This was Velor Prime, home of the Velori, the first species humanity would try to reach. "We are being scanned," said Ensign Minho Yoon from his station. "Their technology is impressive, different from Concord designs." Hiren nodded. The Velori had spent 600 years hiding and improving. Like humanity, they had used their silence to grow stronger. Unlike humanity, they had done it completely alone. "Open a channel," Hiren ordered. "Audio only. No video yet." The communication system activated. Static filled the bridge for a moment. Then a voice spoke. Deep and clicking, translated by the ship's computer into human language. "Unknown vessel. You are in Velori space. Identify yourself or be destroyed." Hiren took a breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. "We are humans from the planet Earth. 250 years ago, we received the Concord's invitation. We chose not to respond. Like you, we have been hiding in the darkness. Like you, we know what the Concord truly is. We come in peace, seeking friendship." The silence that followed lasted nearly a minute. Hiren could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Then the Velori spoke again. "How did you find us? We have been listening to the galaxy for 2 centuries. We have mapped the Concord's movements. We notice the spaces they avoid. The dead zones. The dark regions where their patrols never go. We found you. In one of those spaces." Another long pause. "Why have you come? Ass. Why? Ass. Why have you come?" Hiren looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting. She thought about Dr. Yuna Choi's words. Trust. They had to offer trust. "We have come to share everything," Hiren said. "Our technology, our intelligence on the Concord, the locations of our colonies, everything. We ask for nothing in return, except a chance to talk. This is a trick. It is not. The Concord sends agents to infiltrate hidden species. They pretend to be friends. Then, they reveal our locations to the fleet." Hiren understood their fear. 600 years of hiding. 600 years of trusting no one. It was a miracle the Velori had survived this long. "We know you cannot trust us," Hiren said. "Words mean nothing, so we will prove ourselves with actions. I am sending you a data package now. It contains everything. Our star charts, our scientific research, our population numbers, our defensive capabilities. If you wanted to destroy us, this information would let you do it." She nodded to Minho, who transmitted the package. The response came faster this time. "You are either very brave or very foolish." "La. Perhaps both," Hiren admitted. "But we are tired of being alone. We have spent 250 years in the dark, and we have learned one truth. The Concord wins because they keep us separated. They keep us afraid of each other. The only way to defeat them is to come together." The channel went silent. Minutes passed. Then, Hours. The crew waited nervously, not knowing if the next signal would be a greeting or a weapon. Finally, a new message arrived. A shuttle is approaching your vessel. Do not resist. The shuttle was unlike anything Hiren had seen. It looked like a living creature, with wings of membrane and a shell of hardened chitin. It attached to the Silence's airlock with organic tendrils. The Valori elder who entered was terrifying and beautiful. She stood 3 meters tall, with 6 limbs and compound eyes that reflected 1,000 images of Hiren's face. Her body was covered in patterns of blue and gold that shifted like living art. I am keeper of memory, the elder said through a translation device. I have led my people for 400 years. I have seen many things, but I have never seen a species give away everything on first contact. Hiren bowed. We believe that trust must be given before it can be earned. The keeper studied her for a long moment. Then she made a sound that the translator identified as laughter. Your species is strange, human Hiren. But perhaps that is what we need. Strange thinking for strange times. Over the next several months, the alliance grew. The Valori agreed to share their knowledge with humanity. Together, they reached out to the Drenathi, the water dwellers who had hidden in the ice moons of a dying star. Then the Sulkai, the energy beings who existed in the hearts of gas giants. Then more, the Morvain, the Kelthri, the Shendai. Each contact was dangerous. Each required trust. Some species refused. Some were too afraid. But enough said yes. Commander Tewu Bake arrived at Station Whisper 6 months after the first contact. He was humanity's greatest military strategist. A man who had spent his entire life preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Dr. Yuna Choi met him in the strategy room. Holographic displays showed the positions of all 17 allied species, their combined fleets, their shared resources. We are calling ourselves the Quiet Accord, Yuna said. A joke on the Concord's name. We like it. Tewu studied the displays. Our combined forces are still tiny compared to the Concord. We cannot win a direct war. We do not plan to fight a direct war. Then what do we plan? Yuna smiled and pulled up a new display. It showed the Concord's communication network, a web of signals that connected 4,000 worlds. We plan to tell the truth, she said. Every species in the Concord believes they joined willingly. They believe their ancestors chose this path. They do not know what happens to those who refuse. They do not know about the 247 civilizations that were quietly erased. Tewu began to understand. You want to expose them. We want to give the galaxy a choice. The Concord rules through ignorance. When people learn the truth, they will have to decide what to do with it. Some will stay loyal, but some will not. And that is all we need. Cracks in the foundation. Doubt in the system. The Concord is not held together by love. It is held together by lies. And lies can be broken. Tewu was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. It might work, he said. But we will need a signal strong enough to reach the entire galaxy, and someone brave enough to send it. Yuna looked at the map of allied species, at the 18 civilizations that had found each other in the darkness. We have been silent for 250 years, she said. When we finally speak, we will make sure everyone hears. 1. The broadcast station floated at the edge of Concord space, hidden inside an asteroid that had been hollowed out over 50 years. Ambassador Nari Song stood in the transmission chamber, her hands steady despite the fear in her heart. Around her, technicians from 6 different species worked together, preparing the most important message in galactic history. All systems ready, said a Valori engineer, her compound eyes reflecting the glow of 100 screens. Signal boosters active, added a Drenathi, his aquatic body suspended in a mobile water tank. Nari looked at the countdown clock. 5 minutes until transmission. 5 minutes until humanity's 250 years of silence came to an end. A holographic display activated beside her. Dr. Yuna Choi's face appeared. Old, but sharp. Watching from Station Whisper millions of kilometers away. "How are you feeling?" Yuna asked. Nari laughed softly. "Terrified." "Good. That means you understand what we are doing." The message had taken years to prepare. It contained everything. Evidence of the 247 civilizations that had been absorbed and destroyed by the Concorde. Recordings of their final transmissions, analysis of how the Concorde slowly killed the creativity and independence of its member species. Testimonies from the 17 hidden civilizations who had survived by refusing to answer the call, but most importantly, it contained the Concorde's own records, stolen by human agents who had infiltrated their networks over 2 centuries. Internal documents proving that the Concorde knew exactly what they were doing. Discussions about which species to target next. Plans for how to prevent rebellion. Evidence that the entire system was designed not to help, but to consume. The truth, finally free. 1 minute, announced Minho Yoon, who had been promoted to communications chief since the first Valori contact. Nari stepped up to the transmission console. The message was pre-recorded, but she would add a personal introduction. Something to give it a human face. A human voice. 30 seconds. She thought about Earth. She had never been there. She had been born on a hidden colony in the asteroid belt, raised in the darkness between stars. But she had studied Earth's history. She knew about the wars and the pain and the terrible mistakes humanity had made. She also knew about the art and the music and the love. The messy, complicated, beautiful story of her species. That story had brought them here. 10 seconds. Nari activated the transmission console. A light turned green, indicating that her voice would now reach every corner of the galaxy. 5, 4, 3, 2. She began to speak. "We are humanity. We are from a small planet called Earth, in a quiet corner of the galaxy. 250 years ago, we received the Concorde's invitation. We heard your promise of knowledge and brotherhood. We heard your offer of protection and peace." She paused, letting her words travel across the void. "We chose not to answer. Because we saw the truth, hidden in your signal. We found the records of the 247 species who answered before us. We traced their histories. We watched their lights go out, one by one, and we understood what you really are." The message package began transmitting alongside her voice. Data streams poured out from the asteroid, bouncing off relay satellites planted by the quiet accord across thousands of light years. Within hours, the signal would reach every inhabited world in the galaxy. The Concorde is not an alliance. It is a trap. It does not protect civilizations. It absorbs them. It takes their resources, their creativity, their identity, and leaves behind empty shells that serve without questioning. This is not theory. This is fact. And now, we give you the proof. The evidence files activated. On worlds across Concorde space, screens flickered and changed. The Concorde's own records appeared, undeniable and clear. Population charts showing steady decline after joining. Cultural analysis showing loss of diversity. Communication logs showing how the Concorde suppressed any species that tried to resist. The reaction was immediate. On the Concorde's capital world, alarms screamed as the ruling council tried to block the signal. They failed. The message was everywhere, spreading through official channels and pirated networks, translated into every known language. On 100-member worlds, citizens gathered around public screens, watching in shock as their leaders' lies were exposed. Some refused to believe. Others began to cry. And some began to organize. High Commander Sung-Ho Jang led the Quiet Accord's fleet into position. They had been waiting for this moment for years. Hidden in the dark spaces, the Concorde never patrolled. Now they emerged, not to attack, but to protect. "All ships, defensive formation," Sung-Ho ordered. "Our job is to shield any world that wants to leave the Concorde. We do not fire unless fired upon." The fleet spread across the border region. a wall of ships from 18 different species. Human vessels flew alongside Valori carriers and Dranathi submarines that could travel through space as easily as water. Sulkai energy ships pulsed with light. Morvain stealth crafts flickered in and out of visibility. They were outnumbered 100 to 1. But they were not trying to win a war. They were trying to buy time. The first defections came within hours. A small world called Penthara announced that it was leaving the Concorde. Its leaders had seen the evidence and could not deny the truth. The Quiet Accord fleet moved to protect them as Concorde warships approached. They are targeting the communication towers, Minho reported from the flagship. They want to stop Penthara from spreading the message further. Sungho's jaw tightened. Not today. All ships, intercept course, shields at maximum. The battle was short and strange. The Concorde ships attacked, but their hearts were not in it. Many of them had seen the message too. Many of them were beginning to doubt. They fired warning shots rather than killing blows. And when the Quiet Accord held firm, they retreated. More worlds defected. Then more. The message kept spreading. Impossible to stop. Back on the asteroid station, Nari finished her transmission with words that would be remembered for centuries. We stayed silent for 250 years because we knew that when we spoke, our words had to matter. They had to carry the weight of truth. They had to offer something more than anger or revenge. So here is what we offer: a choice. You can remain in the Concorde, knowing now what it truly is. Or you can join us in building something new. Something based on honesty and freedom. Something that does not consume, but creates. She paused one last time. The silence is over. The choice is yours. She cut the transmission and stood in the quiet that followed. Around her, the technicians were motionless, processing what they had just witnessed. Then the Valori engineer made that clicking sound of laughter. You humans, she said. You really do not do things halfway. Nari smiled. No, we do not. Outside, across the galaxy, everything was changing. 8 years had passed since the transmission that changed everything. The galaxy was no longer the same place. President Minji Quan stood at the window of her office, watching ships from a dozen species arrive at Unity Station. The station itself was a symbol of what had been achieved. Built by human and Valori engineers, powered by Sulkai energy technology, designed by Dranathi architects who understood how to make beauty from function. It was the largest structure ever created by free peoples working together. Today, the first galactic assembly of free worlds would meet here. Over 2,000 species would send representatives. Most of them had been Concorde members just 8 years ago. Now, they were something else. Something new. Madam President, her aide said from the doorway. It is time. Minji nodded and straightened her formal coat. She had never expected to be here. She had grown up on a mining colony, working with her hands, dreaming of a future she could barely imagine. Now she was about to address the galaxy. The assembly hall was enormous, designed to hold representatives from thousands of worlds. Holographic translators floated everywhere, turning every language into every other language instantly. The noise was incredible. Clicking, singing, humming, speaking. The sounds of a galaxy learning to communicate. Minji walked to the central platform. The noise slowly faded as representatives turned to watch her. Thank you all for coming, she began. I know that many of you traveled a long way. I know that many of you were not sure if you should trust this invitation. After all, you trusted the last alliance, and it nearly destroyed you. She let the words hang in the air. Humanity sent the message 8 years ago that revealed the truth about the Concorde. We did not do this to make ourselves leaders. We did not do this to replace one empire with another. We did this because we believed that every species deserves to know the truth, and we believed that once you knew, you would choose freedom. She gestured at the assembled representatives. You proved us right. In 8 years, the Concorde has lost 70% of its members. Not to war, not to violence, to choice. Species after species looked at the evidence, discussed it among themselves, and decided they wanted something different. They wanted to be free. 1. The hall rumbled with sounds of agreement. But freedom is not enough, Minji continued. We have seen what happens when species are isolated, alone, afraid. We spent 250 years hiding in the darkness, and we were lucky to survive. Many others were not so lucky. If we simply scatter and hide again, eventually, a new conquered will rise, a new empire will form, and the cycle will repeat. She took a deep breath. So we propose something new, not a concord that absorbs and controls, not an empire that demands obedience, but a true alliance, a place where species come together by choice, share knowledge freely, help each other grow, and remain independent. We call it the Free Concord, a name that remembers what was wrong with the old system and promises to be different. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Species argued about rules, about representation, about how to prevent the new alliance from becoming like the old one. Some wanted strong, central government. Others wanted almost no government at all. The arguments grew heated at times, but in the end, they found a way. The Free Concord would be governed by a council where every species had equal voice, regardless of size or power. No decisions would be forced on any member. Species could join or leave at any time. All technology and knowledge would be shared openly. And most importantly, the truth of what had happened would never be hidden. History would be remembered. So mistakes would not be repeated. The final vote was not even close. 2,000 species raised their symbols of agreement, filling the hall with a rainbow of lights and sounds. Minji watched it happen and felt tears on her cheeks. She thought about all the people who had made this possible. Admiral Do-hyun Park, who had chosen silence when the galaxy expected noise. Dr. Yuna Choi, who had spent a century building the hidden network. Captain Hyron Lee, who had risked everything on trust. Ambassador Nari Song, who had spoken the words that shattered an empire. So many others, living and dead, known and forgotten. After the assembly, Minji received a message. She was wanted on Earth. She had never been to humanity's homeworld. Few people visited anymore. Earth was kept as a memorial, a reminder of where the species had begun. Most humans lived among the stars now, on stations and colonies spread across 100 systems. But some still lived on the old world, including one very old man. Admiral Do-hyun Park was 312 years old. Life extension technology had kept him alive far longer than anyone had expected. He lived in a small house on the coast of Korea, the same land where his ancestors had lived for thousands of years. Minji found him sitting on a porch, looking at the sea. A young woman sat beside him, his great-great-granddaughter, Ensign Bora Park, who had served on one of the first ships to make contact with the Valori. Madam President, Do-hyun said, his voice thin but clear. You did well. Minji sat down across from him. I only finished what you started, the old man smiled. I did not start anything. I just made a choice. A small choice, really. To wait. To listen. To be careful. That small choice saved our species. Maybe. Or maybe we would have found another way. Humans are good at finding ways. I have lived a long time. I have seen many things. But the best thing I have seen is what happened this week. All those species coming together, choosing to trust each other, choosing to be free. Bora leaned forward. Grandfather, can I ask you something? Of course. Was it worth it? The silence? The waiting? Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. When we received that first signal in 2047, he said finally, everyone wanted to answer immediately. They said it was the greatest moment in human history. They said we could not miss this chance. He turned to look at his granddaughter and at the president. They were right that it was a great moment. But they were wrong about the chance. The chance was not in answering. The chance was in waiting, in learning, in preparing, in making sure that when we finally spoke, our words would matter. He smiled, old and tired, but still bright with life. We could have answered in 2047 and been forgotten. Another species absorbed into the Concord, gone within a few centuries. Instead, we answered in 2297 and changed the galaxy forever. The sun touched the horizon, spilling golden light across the water. Sometimes, Do-hyun said, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, until you have something worth saying. Minji looked at the sunset, at the old man, at the young ensign who carried his name and his hope into the future. She thought about the 2,000 species now joined in freedom. She thought about the centuries of silence that had made it possible. Earth had stayed quiet for 250 years. Then they had talked, and everything had changed. Now, finally, the silence was over, and the future was just beginning.